Blunt Cuts is a podcast fueled by creativity, curiosity, and empowerment.
We cut through the daily mess of life. This is unfiltered honesty.
Park your passive at the door. This is Blunt Cuts. Welcome to Blunt Cuts. I'm CJ, and today we are talking with Sara Worpole.
Hello, hello.
She is in the studio. Sara is an amazing entrepreneur locally, female entrepreneur, but she has an interesting journey. And today we're going to be talking about how single parenting really transformed her and opened her into this world of entrepreneurship and how it's guided her journey and what going through that has meant to her. So welcome, Sara. Thanks. And welcome to Blunt Cuts. And thanks so much for being open and honest and willing to come in and share your very personal story.
Yeah, thanks. It's not something that I've been able to talk about a lot. And I think it comes from so many years of trying to hide who I was because of how I was brought up and and it wasn't until I identified with that and was able to build strength from that I was able to, have the success that I've had in business. So, I was born and raised in San Diego, California, and, I still have two parents that are together, but by no means should they be together. Mm-hmm. And, I have memories of them using drugs, being arrested. We were often taken into Child Protective Services. And, I was kind of ignorant at that time. I thought that this is what everyone went through as a kid. So I didn't really realize something was wrong until I reached that adolescence when people started telling me things were wrong.
Like, this isn't what my Saturday was like.
Then, I just started hiding. I tried to identify with other people who had happy lives, and I started taking on what they would do and hoping that it would change my own life. But then, I realized when I became a single mom that I was the only one able to change my life and change my daughter's life. And that's where, this journey really started. So, I went to I did really well in school because I wanted to get out of the rough life that I had. And so I got a 4-year scholarship to San Diego State. I wanted to work in the music industry. I had everything planned out. And then someone came along and told me they loved me. And I had never had that experience growing up with my own father. So I latched onto it, and I wasn't even aware that this happened. And, and of course it was an unhealthy way to go into a relationship. I'm not surprised now in hindsight that it became an unhealthy relationship. And at 20 years old in college, I found myself pregnant with my daughter. And, instantly my parents told me I should get an abortion. And when I said no, which I don't really know why I said no, it was not something that ever crossed my mind. I almost knew that this was going to be a life-changing experience for me. When I didn't agree to it, they disowned me, stopped talking to me. I had no one. And I had this guy in my life who was still interested in partying. And that's okay because we were 20 years old.
Yeah.
I don't blame him for that. But I didn't want, and it's so cliche, I didn't want the same life for my child that I had had. So when she came along into the world and my relationship increasingly became more abusive, something clicked in me and said, you got to get out. You've got to do something different. And because I had been so scared my whole life of who I was, I really started to embrace how much I'd been through in life, how much I'd already survived, and come hell or high water, I was going to do it. And
how much was left, right? How much more you could impact and change.
Right. So, I moved back to California. I was living in Nevada at the time. I was trying to get as far away from my life as I could. And that ended up being in Reno, Nevada, of all places. And so I moved back home, living in Southern California as a single mom was no easy thing. I was getting food from the food bank. I was, doing whatever I could to make sure my daughter had everything that she had while I was trying to build our life. So I come to Minnesota in the end of 2010, 2011, again, found a perfect relationship. This was so different. Little did I know that I was still having, that tendency to go towards men who weren't going to treat me right, who weren't going to respect me. I was so focused on respecting myself. I wasn't looking at who I was attracting into my life. And so this guy came into my life. I dated him briefly when I was a teenager, thought I knew him, had a lot of money, lived in Minnesota. Great. I was living in turned out to be a halfway house complex with a little baby. And, so I was going to go to wholesome Minnesota, live in this great big house, have all my dreams come true. So I took the easy way out again, because through life, those easy paths come disguising themselves as the greatest thing in the world. But little do we know that the only way we can truly get what we want is if we do it and if we work hard for it. So I came to Minnesota. And again, this is also coming here where I started building my bravery to become an entrepreneur. I went out for the NFL cheerleading team and was surprisingly successful at that. And I started opening these business relationships and friendships with people who
That's awesome.
were going to serve me in the long run, who really cared about me. And although it's a hard industry to be in, there's so much competition, but you find people who are so supportive of women. And that's what I needed in my life. And when I found out that my husband, we got married, when I found out that he was leading this double life, I had the strength to leave with no money, no house, no job. I was essentially a trophy wife going after my own dreams, which was great. I'm so lucky to have been able to open those doors for myself. But I was also able to recognize that this was not a healthy relationship. Mm-hmm. And it was just going to go back down the path that my first relationship went down. So I left without anything. And, I started building everything on my own. I started scraping. I lived off of boiled rice and Girl Scout cookies for months because it's all I had. But I wasn't going to go down one of those misguided paths again that looked so easy and so great and so shiny. I was going to take the hard way and see where it got me.
Well, I am inspired by all of that and inspired by everything that you do. And, I think you've worked for us for Blunt Cuts, and you created in a very short amount of time what has become kind of our brand video and story. And you captured so many authentic moments of our day and of who we are as people. And I think you just have this extreme intuition and great perspective on capturing people for who they are. And I'm sure your journey has something to do with that.
I own 2 video production companies, but I really describe myself as a storyteller because of the very colorful journey that I've had. I'm able to recognize what makes people unique. And I love bringing that to the forefront. No matter what someone wants to see, I love showing them who they really are because I want them to find that as beautiful as I find it. And I've had such great response by that because it's something that doesn't exist in today's world, especially in video. Everyone wants to edit it a certain way or have it be so dramatic or so romantic, and it's not real. But the story's already written. I don't need to do anything except show you yourself.
And find those right moments throughout the day and throughout the process. So, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey and kind of opening up. So to other single moms out there, to those who don't have children but are trying to think, from a parent's perspective, how has parenting and, single parenting kind of shaped your goals and your drive? And, do you think that being a single parent had anything to do with the way you were so driven?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being a single parent is a lot like being an entrepreneur. You work hard every day. There's no off day. There's no weekend. You don't necessarily know where the money's coming from for a certain thing, especially if you are dependent on yourself for that money. You have, kids that are demanding, just like you have clients that are demanding in the business world, and you have to rise to the occasion any day you're not feeling good, whether or not you want to do it. And in really applying yourself to both things, you're going to find great success, and you're going to find people who respect you and love you. And, my daughter, she's almost 11 now, and she's so driven and ambitious. And
that was going to be my next question. Like, tell us about your daughter. How are things now? Because life has changed now in your life. So.
She's grown up with me from the time I was 20. She saw me try, the NFL. She's seen me in business. She's gone to work with me a lot of days. She's held cameras for me, and she applies it to her own life. She already knows what she wants to do. She wants to be an entrepreneur herself. She wants to own her own cheerleading gym.
Love it.
She's 10 years old, and she spends hours a week working at her craft. And whether or not she feels good, she had a competition yesterday. She had a fever, but she wasn't going to let her team down. And it's hard for me to equate that to things that I've taught her, because as a parent, you're your own worst critic. But it's also okay to say, yeah, like, I'm doing a good job. There are some days she hates me, but I'm still doing a good job.
Welcome to motherhood. I, as a mother, and, I've had the luxury of having, my partner by my side, but we also see parenting very differently. So, I think that's also an interesting way to raise children, with somebody who sees things differently than you, and then you're both coming together to raise these little beings that you just really hope go out in the world and with kindness and care, and do well by you. And oftentimes at home we see their most comfortable decompressing selves. We don't see their true spirit and who they always are. And I think when I'm looking from the sidelines and seeing her interact with kids at school or teachers or helping out in ways, I'm just like, wow, I am really proud of that. Even though there's those times where you're absolutely hating me at home and I'm feeling like a complete failure, when you're going out in the world, you're taking some of this with you. Yeah. And if I have to be that place where you can decompress and let it all out at home, I'm happy to be that place.
And that's something I really wanted, to this day. I don't hold anything against my parents. I try to have as open as a relationship as I can. I was never able to share anything with my parents, and I always want that door of communication to be open. And I think that's so important, whether or not your child's having identity issues or, wants to start dating or wants to start dressing a certain way. Being so open to just hearing them, it means so much to them to know that they are a person with thoughts that you value, because so much of parenting, used to be you're seen and not heard. But in today's world, kids are really the next generation that are being heard in every facet of life.
Yeah, and their feelings and having a platform so early in life to be heard. And that, I would completely agree with you. I'm very open with both of my children, and I think way more open than either of my parents have ever been, to the point that sometimes I get a little bit criticized by how you're very open, or like, wow, your language choices in front of your children. I'm like, oh, this is real life.
Yeah.
Like it's, I mean, it doesn't have to be this picturesque porcelain world. No, like life is messy, and that's okay and beautiful.
I have 2 kids now, and the perspective that my oldest has is something that, my second probably will not share the same perspective, because she saw the struggle. She knew we would sit at Applebee's and I would sit there and order nothing just so she could have a dinner out and order her kids' meal. Like, she realizes she used to make me fake money to help me pay the bills. And I was so sad at the time, because, she shouldn't have to do that. But she's always been my partner in crime, and she's going to be as supportive of me in life as I'm going to be with her.
I think being able to remove that veil as parents and show some of our vulnerability does help our children, especially in a time of social media and when they're really dealing with a lot of feelings and a lot is on them, and pressures of sports and school and life have just changed from when I was a kid. Like, I definitely don't remember practicing as hard as the kids practice now in activities, and like, I apparently didn't take much very seriously as a child.
I didn't either.
I've made it up for my adulthood. But I think that for me has been, I've seen it come back to me by being able to be open. My daughter has been able to come forward when things have bothered her, or even her friends. Like, I've noticed there have been times when, like, our neighbor girl is over and I'm going through some stuff and she's right there with it too. And I don't hide that just because somebody else's child is in the room. Nope. And she's also come to me with things that have bothered her, and I'm happy that I'm a safe and happy place. So until anything shifts from that realm, I'm going to continue to be open and honest, around children in general, all children. Yeah. So.
And I think in the business world, it comes back to that so much. I'm so open and honest with my clients now, and it takes down that veil of that client business person relationship where, hi, this is the best. I'm having the best day ever. Nice to meet you. Let's sit down and talk. It's, I'm having a crap day. Like, I'm sorry I was late, and they, oh my God, me too, bringing that realistic, like, life is hard, especially living in Minnesota when we're getting 6 inches of snow and I'm trying to get to the meeting and I'm doing the best I can. You're doing the best you can. And we both sit down and we're like, let's just drink coffee for a minute.
Let's just be together in this room with some quiet. Yeah.
And, one of the first things I say to my clients is, listen, I'm probably the worst business person ever because I give so much more than I probably get back. But it's just because I'm telling their stories, and it's such a unique part of their life that I want to do right by them. And it doesn't matter if I'm not getting paid enough, or if I'm spending too much time, or if, the post-production is taking too long. Like, this is someone's baby. And much like I've had a village helping me raise my kid, I'm going to do the same for the people who come to me, trusting me with what's so important to them. And, blunt, because I've known you for years, and you doing that, I knew how special that was for you. And I wanted to do right by it. And, I hope I did.
Thank you. You certainly did. And, Sara covered an event for us and was really there and really present. And we didn't have much of a direction for the day. And I was just like, be there, get the day. And there were little edits at the end, and I was just like, if anything, like, are there any more sound bites about like how amazing these other women were that were on the panel, and I think that was more, we jointly wanted to share stories. And it's so powerful how you can kind of take all of that and create a minute of really empowering work. And I love that. And I love your craft. And I think you do it very well.
Thank you so much. It was never anything I thought of doing, but, thinking of the modeling I've done, the dancing I've done, I've always had that creative bug in me, but it's just having the confidence to, you may think that this line of work isn't right for you, but just explore what's within you, what you can possibly do. And if it fails, that's okay. You're probably learning more than if it succeeded in the first place, and every door that shuts really means it wasn't supposed to be open.
Yeah, that was podcasting for me. I never really, in the grand crystal ball of life, thought podcast host. Yes, check. I want to do that. But it came through really opening up and kind of falling in like a happiness with myself and finding who I was and really appreciating that, and then realizing that external things weren't really affecting who I was as much as they had in the past. And I was like, I really need to explore this. And through therapy and talking things out, I realized it got better. And the more honest and the more forward I was about where I am in my day, crap or good, it had an impact on me and my mental health. So I was like, for anything, I'm going to just get out and keep pushing and being this platform for others to be able to hopefully get some results out of that as well. So,
Yeah.
And it's been great, and it's been a great, happy place. So
it is. And, I know you and I, we both suffer from like anxiety, and me, especially social anxiety. Sitting down to meet with a new client is the most terrifying thing that I do. But being able to talk and to be heard and to have them do it to me, it has helped me so much, being able to identify when I'm not feeling good, when I need to talk to someone. And so, facing those fears that we all have that, you think you could never get a hold of, just, yeah.
Yeah, take it a day at a time. But really, I had to be in an active place to be ready to kind of figure that out. And this has been a great journey to get there. So if we were to leave our listeners with a lesson learned about where you are and how you've gotten here, what would that be?
It's a never-ending journey. Don't expect to get to a place where you're done. You're constantly going to be evolving. And, I just think, put out into the universe what you want to get back. And one thing that I always talk about is, don't wake up dreaming about what you're going to do, because you're telling the world, I don't have this yet. Be thankful for your dreams and your goals and what you're doing. And even if you're not on that path, you're headed there. And being thankful is just going to give it back to yourself. And you're going to share that with so many people. And, lastly, if you're having issues in a relationship and you're being abused either mentally or physically, to get out. And I'm never a person who says, if I can do it, you can do it. This is the only time I'll ever do it, because it was hard. And on multiple occasions, I've had no money, no family, nowhere to go, a child depending on me, but you can do it no matter what. Like, you can do it. And there are people to help. And, that's ultimately coming from being a single parent. You don't have to provide that, what you think is going to be a picture perfect life for your kid. You can do it on your own. And every woman's strong enough. Every man, there's lots of single fathers out there,
absolutely.
Can do it. And, just keep day by day, keep pushing, and you'll get there.
Well, thank you so much for being
you.
here, and thank you for sharing your story. Please tell our listeners where they can find you.
So on Instagram, I'm Sara, Sara _Worpole, WORPOLE. My company is Make Your Name, and then Make Your Memory. So on Instagram, Make Your Name HQ, and then Make Your Memory HQ. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. And please, let's continue the conversation on Instagram. We are here. Sara is here.
Yes.
We're always here at Blunt Cuts. So let us know how we can help, and we're happy to. So please follow us at Blunt Cuts Podcast.